This object is simply a piece of another solar system that was expelled, and it has been traveling through interstellar space for hundreds of millions of years, billions of years, we don't know.
The slowdown, no natural object should be able to do this. That was the line from NASA's internal log the night 3IATLAS began to break. In the perfect vacuum between Mars and Jupiter, where motion is eternal and friction is myth, the interstellar object slowed by 300%. No dust drag, no magnetic field, nothing that physics could name. The orbiting telescopes caught it first. A faint pulse in the deep field telemetry, the numbers bending where they should have stayed straight, trajectory flattening, velocity curve decaying, as if an unseen hand had closed around it. 3IATLAS was never meant to change. It had crossed into our system on a hyperbolic path, a perfect escape arc that ignored the sun's gravity. But now, it drifted, defying centuries of celestial mechanics. NASA issued quiet alerts to observatories worldwide. The order was simple: watch the visitor, record everything. What they saw made less sense with every frame. The coma shimmered unevenly, jets of gas bursting in timed intervals. Not chaotic, but rhythmic, almost deliberate. Every emission peak matched a cycle, every dimming a pause. And then came the infrared reading, a heat signature inconsistent with any comet, pulsing through its surface like a heartbeat. The question was no longer where it came from, it was what was slowing it down. The age problem: when astronomers traced its path backward through galactic coordinates, the trail led to nothing. No star, no cluster, no birthplace. 3IATLAS had crossed the Milky Way for millions, perhaps billions, of years, untouched by any gravity well. Its chemistry confirmed the story. Spectral lines showed carbon, rich volatiles and high albedo dust so pristine that they could only have formed before the sun existed. The galaxy itself was young when this thing condensed from cold gas. They called it the ghost of the early Milky Way. Every test pointed to an impossible origin: low metallicity, meaning almost no heavy elements, matter older than modern stars, unaltered ices, shielded for eons in darkness, velocity that matched neither the thin nor thick galactic disk, but drifted between them, a gravitational limbo where ancient debris sleeps. It meant 3IATLAS wasn't just interstellar, it was inter-epochal, a fossil from the galaxy's childhood, carrying the temperature of a universe that had barely learned to shine. Yet something in that fossil had awoken. Its crust vented carbon dioxide 8 times stronger than water vapor, the inverse of every known comet. A chemical signature of formation in utter cold where ultraviolet light never reached. James Webb's infrared sensors recorded narrow vents releasing gas through a dense shell, as if the surface had been engineered to endure. To look at it was to see the architecture of the first matter, the way dust once learned to become worlds. The chemistry of life as the comet, that wasn't drifted closer to sunlight. The Swift Observatory detected faint ultraviolet emission at 308 nanometers. Hydroxyl lines, proof that water was escaping. It shouldn't have been possible. At that distance, ice remains inert. But 3IATLAS breathed, slowly, rhythmically, as though alive. Then radio telescopes caught a whisper at 265 GARs hydrogen cyanide. CN, the molecule that links carbon, nitrogen, and hydrogen, the same triad found in amino acids and RNA. The oldest alphabet of life, in an object older than the solar system, drifting through void for 1 billion years. Those molecules still formed and broke and reformed under sunlight. Each pulse of cyanide gas trailed behind it like a blue signature, a chemical heartbeat echoing across the black. The ratios matched no ordinary comet, yet the physics remained perfect. Light, heat, pressure, all sculpting matter the same way everywhere, from the newborn sun to forgotten stars beyond the spiral arms. It meant life's building blocks were not local miracles, but galactic constants. 3IATLAS wasn't alive, but it remembered how life begins. Its frozen chemistry was a manual written in atoms, a message from the galaxy's youth to the civilizations now watching. each particle of dust a letter, each vented molecule a syllable of creation. The Martian witness in October 2025, as the object crossed the orbit of Mars, an alignment occurred that no simulation had predicted. For the first time, another planet became our observatory. The Trace Gas Orbiter turned its instruments toward the inbound comet. Through the thin Martian dawn, it recorded a sphere of blue-white light, a coma 15,000 kilometers wide, breathing in intervals symmetrical as a heartbeat. Mars Express confirmed it. The jets were uniform, the dust size identical, the tail balanced by design, not erosion. The data implied equilibrium, not chaos, a structure that maintained itself. For a brief moment, the red planet and the frozen visitor shared the same sunlight. Two relics of different ages, one born of dust and fire, the other of ice and time, reflecting each other across emptiness. Then 3IATLAS curved outward again beyond the reach of Martian orbit, its signal fading into the deep heliosphere. NASA's analysts still watch the telemetry. The slowdown remains unexplained. Some suggest gravitational interference from a dark matter filament. Others whisper about magnetic coupling or alien engineering. But in truth, no one knows. All we have are numbers, and the silence between them. It entered our system older than the Earth itself. It slowed where nothing can slow. It carried water, carbon, cyanide, the alphabet of existence, and breathed it into sunlight one last time. Maybe it's a relic, maybe it's a message, or maybe it's a mirror, showing us what we once were and what we might become. 3IATLAS drifts on, back into the dark that forged it. A fragment of the first dawn, fading beyond the reach of our telescopes and taking its secret with it. A trajectory through nothing. Every orbit tells a story, but 3IATLAS tells silence. When its path was traced backward through the galaxy, no star waited at the end, no solar remnant, no gravitational fingerprint, just emptiness. NASA's Orbital Mechanics Division ran the simulation again and again. 72 separate star motion models stretching millions of years into the past. Every one ended the same way: void. 3IATLAS had not been torn from a parent system. It had simply been sliding through interstellar darkness longer than Earth has known oceans. The object moves between the thin and thick disks of the Milky Way. The galaxy's twilight zones were young metal. It travels through that quiet interspace like a relic bullet frozen in slow time. Velocity too high for capture, too low for ejection. Chemistry, carbon-rich, metal poor, age unknowable, but older than the dust that built our planets. To astronomers, it felt less like a comet and more like a memory, a piece of the galaxy that refused to age. Fossil light spectrometers at Mauna Kea and Paranal drew its chemical map: a strong carbon dioxide emission, trace ammonia, negligible methane. That combination shouldn't exist anymore. Those molecules degrade under cosmic radiation in a few million years. Yet here they were, bright and intact, older than the sun. That meant one thing: 3IATLAS had spent its lifetime shielded, wrapped in a cocoon of darkness where ultraviolet light could not reach. Somewhere far beyond the spiral arms, amid orphan stars that never joined the galactic plane, the comet formed, froze, and slept. Its surface reflects light with an albedo too high for its composition, a mirror of powdered glass bound by ancient frost. Every photon that leaves it now may be the first light to touch it since the galaxy was young. To the detectors, that reflection carries more than brightness. It carries temperature history, a record of how cold matter once was before stars like ours began burning hydrogen. In that sense, 3IATLAS is not merely old. It is primordial, a chemical echo of the universe's first winter. The lost star theory: when stellar motion experts at ESA extended its vector into the galactic past, they discovered a mathematical ghost. If the comet had been orbiting any star at all, that star no longer exists. The models place its origin inside a gravitational corridor known as the transitional membrane. There, ancient stars drift almost motionless, Their light dimmed by age, their debris fields nearly eternal. Perhaps one of those long-gone suns once held Atlas in its weak gravity until a collision, a planetary breakup, a dying flare, nudged it free. Then its parent star aged, cooled, dissolved into the background glow. The galaxy forgot it. Only the fragment remained. Astrophysicist Dr. Li Kang described it this way during the late-night press reviews. It's like finding a fossil with no planet, no star, no epoch. Only the imprint, a piece of matter older than history that refuses to belong anywhere. Within that metaphor hides a truth. If 3IATLAS truly comes from the galactic boundary, it predates the metals forged in later supernovae. Its dust grains condensed when carbon monoxide first froze in interstellar clouds, before oxygen joined it to form water. It is the DNA of the Milky Way, preserved in ice. The chemistry of Origin James Webb's infrared spectrograph revealed something never seen in a modern comet, a ratio of carbon dioxide to water of 8:1. By comparison, even the coldest solar system comets rarely exceed 1:1. That inversion alone rewrites the textbook. It tells us the environment where it formed was so cold, below 40 Kelvin, that carbon dioxide froze before water ever could. In that temperature range, only the dim outer shell of a newborn galaxy could exist. The result is a body that behaves backward. Instead of roaring to life near the sun, it resists, venting Sol through narrow fissures like measured breaths. Its energy curve isn't random outgassing. It's structured, repeating in intervals tied to its rotation. To some in the mission telemetry group, it almost looks programmed. Each vent opens, exhales, and seals again, as if the object were managing its own decay, regulating heat so it will not die too soon. NASA won't say that publicly, but the data logs whisper it between the lines. The ghost physics. There's another riddle, its deceleration. Every equation says a body on a hyperbolic trajectory should accelerate slightly as it falls toward the sun. 3IATLAS does the opposite. Its vector is flattening, speed dropping by a measurable threefold. No gas jet can account for that magnitude. Even the combined seal exhaust is orders of magnitude too weak. If drag doesn't exist out there, something else is stealing momentum. Magnetic coupling, dark matter interaction, unknown plasma field. Each theory fits the data only halfway, then collapses. Dr. Mira Santos at JPL described the dilemma. It's like watching a candle flame bend in a vacuum. There's no reason for it, yet the math insists it's real. Some whisper that the slowdown is an artifact of observation, a timing error, a calibration drift. But the clocks are synchronized across continents down to the microsecond. The slowdown is real. It is intentional physics without an agent. The data that shouldn't exist within days of confirmation, NASA restricted the telemetry feed. The public dashboard froze on a benign update, object stable, no anomaly detected. Privately, the raw packets continued to stream. Inside the encrypted channels, the data points painted a stranger picture. Polarimetric readings. The orientation of light waves reflected from its dust, inverted at small phase angles, flipping opposite to known behavior. The inversion implies dust grains smaller than light wavelengths, hollow or magnetically aligned, forming structures that twist photons themselves. Translated, its dust behaves like engineered nanomaterial. Naturally impossible. Yet there it was, scattering sunlight backward as though reflecting through memory rather than matter. When modeled in simulation, the only configuration that fits is one in which the dust grains are coated with conductive carbon shells, a geometry capable of responding to electromagnetic fields. No comet, asteroid, or planet ever tested has shown that property. 3IATLAS might not only carry ancient matter, it might react to light and magnetism in ways unknown since the galaxy's birth. The mirror hypothesis: what if it isn't a traveler at all, but a mirror, a relic left adrift by a civilization long erased, built when the Milky Way itself was young and chaotic? It sounds like fiction, but the numbers keep whispering it. An object that slows itself, manages its heat, retains impossible chemistry, and scatters light like circuitry. When the idea first circulated through NASA's internal forum, it was labeled speculative. But within 2 weeks, the classification tag changed to restricted. Theories don't get locked behind encryption unless they touch something more than theory. Maybe the truth is simpler gravity. We don't yet understand physics we haven't written. Or maybe the galaxy's first architect still left fingerprints in its oldest ice. Either way, the data are clear. 3IATLAS isn't just ancient, it's deliberate, a structure that remembers. The silence after discovery. By mid-October 2025, its signal weakened. Infrared brightness dropped, radio emissions dulled. Then, for several hours, the comet fell below every telescope sensitivity line, as if it had switched itself off. When it reappeared, the telemetry clock was out of sync by 1.7 seconds. A negligible gap by astronomical standards, yet impossible to explain without data loss. Nothing else in the system glitched, only Atlas. NASA's last public update called it an observational gap due to interference. But off-record engineers used a different phrase, controlled silence. That was the night the deceleration spiked again, another 12% reduction. No plume, no jet, no explanation, just an ancient body slowing in defiance of the universe. The oldest messenger, if its composition predates the sun, its motion predates the planets, and its chemistry mimics the blueprints of life, then 3IATLAS is not just debris. It is a message written in matter, a record of what existed before galaxies matured. A frozen script drifting through cosmic time, now crossing a system advanced enough to read it. Perhaps the slowdown isn't malfunction. Perhaps it's recognition. Maybe the moment it felt sunlight from a technological civilization, radio waves, radar pings, the electromagnetic hum of our species. It responded, not consciously but like memory triggered by light, like a reflex built into atoms. After all, every element in our blood was forged in the same first stars, whose ashes made Atlas. When we look at it, the universe is looking at itself, and maybe that mutual gaze is what slowed it down. The breath in the void, the first sign that 3IATLAS was alive, in the chemical sense, came not from Earth, but from the Swift Ultraviolet Observatory. At 385 angstroms, where sunlight fractures into ultraviolet ghosts, a faint emission line appeared: hydroxyl, the spectral code of water. Impossible. At 3.5 astronomical units from the sun, a comet should sleep. Its ices locked beneath frozen silence. Yet this one breathed, slow, rhythmic, deliberate, as if the void itself inhaled and exhaled through its vents. NASA's analysts called it an anomaly of internal heating. But the data disagreed. The temperature never rose high enough for water to sublimate. Something deeper was moving inside the nucleus. A pulse of pressure that built, released, and sealed again. It was not explosion. It was function. Infrared arrays aboard the James Webb Space Telescope caught the rhythm. Every rotation, the object exhaled jets of gas in the same pattern, each vent opening for minutes, closing for hours. The cadence was too regular for chaos, too restrained for decay. Atlas was doing something comets never do. It was managing its own evaporation. Carbon and the ancient equation, the ratio of gases pouring from its surface, violated every known rule. 8 molecules of carbon dioxide for every one of water. An inversion that no solar-born body had ever shown. To understand it, scientists turned to chemistry and to history. In the young galaxy before metal, rich stars seeded space with complex molecules. Carbon and oxygen were the first to bond. In that primal cold, chiol condensed long before H&O could exist. It froze into crystals under ultraviolet fields so weak they barely glimmered. 3IATLAS carried that fingerprint intact. Its chemistry was a snapshot of the galaxy's first chemistry experiment, when light and darkness were still learning how to mix. But what truly defied belief was the organization of the outgassing. Infrared mapping showed narrow plumes tracing lines across its crust. Symmetrical, repeating, almost architectural. Gas wasn't escaping randomly, it was escaping through a pattern. Each vent's orientation formed triangles and arcs around the nucleus, geometry that matched no stress fracture model. It looked more like design or memory preserved in stone and ice. The mission log from Webb's control team contains one quiet line. It is behaving as though it remembers how it was made. The blue signature, then came the radio whisper. At 265 GHz, in a band usually reserved for cosmic background calibration, an unexpected pulse repeated every few seconds. The signal belonged to hydrogen cyanide HCN, a molecule infamous on Earth as poison but in chemistry sacred. Carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, the same triad that threads through amino acids, proteins, and the scaffolds of RNA. The numbers were staggering: 4 tied 10,000 molecules per second, released from vents thousands of kilometers apart yet synchronized within milliseconds. To biochemists, it was impossible coincidence. To physicists, it was symmetry. To poets, it was heartbeat. Under sunlight, each HCN molecule shattered into CN radicals, releasing a faint blue emission that painted the comet's tail in shifting hues. A color not of reflection, but of creation, the chemical echo of life's alphabet written in light. When the first composite image arrived, a ribbon of sapphire trailing through black, the mission room fell silent. No one spoke, because they knew what they were seeing. A molecule older than Earth, glowing in the vacuum like the memory of a seed. The universal recipe, the ratios of cyanide to water, were nearly identical to those measured in ordinary solar comets. An impossible match across billions of years and billions of miles. The implication was profound: the chemistry of life doesn't care where it happens. Under the right balance of temperature, pressure, and light, the same molecules assemble themselves again and again, from one end of the galaxy to the other. That means life's script is not unique, it is cosmic instinct. Every atom in 3IATLAS obeyed those same rules, crystallizing into the same code long before any planet bore oceans. It wasn't proof of life. It was proof of the possibility, the persistent rehearsal of existence written into matter itself. Scientists began to see the comet not as an object but as a recorder, a physical archive of how biology begins. Inside its frozen layers might lie prebiotic molecules preserved in their original ratios, untouched by stellar cycles. The chemistry that once sparked living cells could still be sleeping there intact, waiting only for warmth. The James Webb team proposed a daring theory, that interstellar ices like these seeded not just our world, but all habitable worlds, sprinkling the universe with fragments of the same recipe. And somewhere in that ancient chain, this one survived long enough to come home. Light that remembers as its coma brightened, polarimetric instruments measured the way sunlight scattered through its dust. The results startled even the skeptics. At small phase angles, the reflected light polarized in reverse, an optical signature unseen in any comet before. To reproduce it in simulation, the dust grains had to be microscopic, hollow, and aligned. The hallmark of material shaped in ultra-low metallicity environments, dust that formed before complex minerals existed. Each grain was a miniature time capsule, porous, fragile, and electrically sensitive. Under solar radiation, those grains aligned like compass needles, twisting light into patterns that mapped invisible forces. Through that twist, 3IATLAS spoke in polarization, telling scientists about its age, its magnetism, its chemistry, all without sound. The more they studied it, the more it resembled an instrument, a natural probe recording the physics of its birth. To the naked eye, the effect was almost nothing, a faint shimmer, a softness in the coma's edge. But to the detectors it was a language, a code of orientation and light, billions of years old, still functioning flawlessly. As one astronomer put it, it's like the dust remembers where it came from. The first experiment, when the numbers were assembled, a pattern emerged: carbon dioxide dominant, water dormant, cyanide alive, dust magnetic. It was a complete system, cold, ancient, yet responsive to sunlight. a frozen laboratory orbiting through eternity. Theorists suggested that this might be what early molecular clouds looked like before they collapsed into stars. If true, 3IATLAS is not a comet at all. It's the last survivor of the galaxy's first experiment in chemistry. Imagine it, a fragment of primordial gas that never formed a sun, never joined a planet, never melted.